Hey everybody, my name is Lynn Adams. I am the Communications Director at FBC Carolina Elite Basketball located in Raleigh, North Carolina. Also former Team Snap National Coach of the Year nominee. Hey, I wanted to share with everybody today a little bit about some of the things that we do at FBC that helps us to better position our kids, our players, to be able to get into college and play basketball in college, and really are smart about how we do this to give them the most potential to get there. So this section is really is about team construction. It's about how we create our rosters. And I think a lot of people use the traditional model. You know, you have a tryout, kids come out to practice, you get a whole blend of kids in a particular age group. Maybe you say the class of 2023 or the class of 2025, and you get a good group of kids on the team, some big, some small, some not so much of those, maybe in between. And you say, let's go out and play basketball, and you train them up, and you go out and say, let's go get some exposure. We'll go enter some nice big national exposure event, a high major event. You got coaches there from all around the country, and you play basketball, and some of them, rise to the top. They show well, and of course, then maybe some things happen, and you end up with more kids, and say, well, gee, let's start another team. And so you create a new team. Maybe this is going to be the class of 2022 or 2025, and so you create another team, and it's really traditionally, it's all based on age-based teams. And maybe that team isn't quite as good as the first team. They hadn't been around as long, so maybe you take them to play more in that mid-major lane, some of your regional exposure events. And heck, maybe a few more things happen and you end up with a whole nother team. You know, a new team comes up and you take them and play. Maybe they're not maybe as experienced as the other two you started, and you take them and you put them in some D2, D3 NAIA events, and they're located all around the country. So you got these teams, you got blended rosters on all of them. They're all the same age, but they're all different sizes and skill levels and so on and so forth. Well, what we've seen through our experience is that, when you take a team of a blended age group out there and you play in the high major area, you might, if you have some real superstars carrying the team, you might get two or three of them get some offers, and then, if you take another team, maybe a little lower level out to the mid majors, and you're seeing the coaches out there that are more in the regional college environment, and you got a good team, maybe if you do really well, maybe you play a lot of tournaments, maybe you get 4 or 5 kids that'll get offers. And then, of course, you take your age-based teams, maybe the newer teams, to the smaller events, the D2, D3 events, and maybe they'll pick up 2 or 3 offers there. Now, one thing that's really interesting, we've had a lot of opportunities to learn here. If you take a really good team to a D2, D3 only event, surprisingly, you won't get any offers. You won't get any follow-up, because a lot of those coaches understand that a kid's not going to take a D3 NAIA type situation over a mid-major. We know there's an athletic scholarship, something like that on the table. So a lot of times those coaches won't even waste their time. So it's really surprising that you can go and beat everybody to death at one of those events. And a lot of times the coaches won't even really reach out, because they just know that it's a waste of their time. So a lot of people don't know that, so they do it and they figure it out the hard way. Now, the problem with this scenario is that let's look at maybe that blended scenario where you got your kind of your middle of the road team. You're out there in the mid-major circuit where there's really the biggest range from colleges, from skill level, from top to bottom. But what happens is your better kids on a team, a lot of times they'll get those offers from those mid-major schools, and they'll turn their nose up at them almost. So I really wanted to go somewhere, Power 5 or BCS, and their mom and dad say, yeah, you're better than that. You probably should hold out and get, really try to get something better. But the problem is they're kind of stuck in this situation where they're playing with everybody their age, and maybe they're the best 2 kids on the team, and they're just not being able to be seen in the proper light to get the attention of the top schools in the country. So they kind of say, thanks, but no thanks. We don't really want that offer. So when you end up with this situation, you kind of look at the net of this traditional team construction process. You end up in a situation where so many kids don't get offers compared to the kids that do get offers and take those offers. Like if you had 3 teams of 9, 27 kids, you end up with 18 kids that, when they get done with high school, it's over, because they didn't play in the right lane, they didn't prep in the right path, they didn't play with the right level of kids and eliminate skill gap problems that come up on these teams. But at the same time, you had 9 kids that got an offer and took it and went on to play in college. Now, we believe that there's a better way to do this, and we're seeing it work. And FBC as a program is an incredible example of a program that has figured this out. And it really has to do with this concept of a floating team construction, right? So on the left-hand side, traditionally you have this sort of age-based blended process, and on the right-hand side you have more teams that are organized by competitive level. And what you got to do is you really have to reshuffle the deck. You need to get rid of the idea of, okay, my 2024s are going to play all together, my 2023s are going to play all together, my 2022s are going to play all together, because when you do that, you're binding kids together that don't have the same skills or the same competitive capabilities. And then when you do that, you end up in a situation where that age-based blended team scenario, you got kids buried in those rosters that really are D1 type kids, and they're carrying the team. And the kids that are not D1, maybe they're D2 or D3, they never really get to play and make an impact on the court, right? But if you flip the script and say, look, we're going to organize all the teams by competitive level, and you put 8 or 9 kids of a very similar skill level all on the same squad, and you say, we're going to take the top 8 or 9, and we're going to play at the top level we can get that team to play at. And we'll take the next 8 or 9. We're going to go play at the best level that that team can play at. And the same for the third. You're going to get very focused about where you go and the intention of what you're trying to do when you get there, right? You're going to play everybody so everybody gets seen and everybody gets the opportunity to shine in front of the right kinds of schools. So sometimes you say, well, what's the difference, right? You know, a competitive, maybe Division I, big time, national circuit team, the kids are just bigger. They're stronger. They're faster. And they're a lot of times amazing shooters, right? Maybe what's the next level? You know, maybe more of like the mid-major or D2s. You know, they're going to have some good size. They're going to have moderate strength. They're going to be quicker than their typical high school peers, and a lot of them are decent shooters. But there's a visible and actionable difference between national Division I top-tier kids versus regional Division I, right? And then you also have other kids that maybe they're still developing. You know, they're typically going to be smaller. They may have better skills than kids that are in the higher levels, but they're sized out. You know, these big time schools like UConn and Mississippi State and South Carolina, they don't want kids that are 5'6", 5'7". I mean, they're wanting 6 foot kids, 6'3", 6'2". So you got to get the kids in the right lane to play in front of the right coaches. Now, when you do that, it takes some things to happen, right? You got to figure it out. You got to have people you trust to figure out who needs to be on which roster. But when you do that, you're going to see things happen that you have never seen before. And let's take, for example, if you take your very best team that you can put together out of all the age groups you have, and you go take that team and you play in the highest possible track that they can get in, if they're really playing in the right place, you know, a group of 9 is going to get out there and play high major, maybe a group of 8 or 9 going to play mid major. Everybody's playing in the right lane, but you're going to get 7 or 6 or 8 offers on one team at each level because they're playing at the right level for their competitive capabilities, and they're all going to play valuable minutes. They're all going to play minutes in situations. Now, you're going to have some kids that say, well, I belong in a higher track and I'm better than that, so on and so forth. But I'm telling you, if you put them in the wrong track and you hide them in the shadows of kids that are really getting it done, they're not going to get offers. But if you get them in the right lanes where they're playing meaningful minutes every time you hit the court, this is the ratios that we've seen. 21 out of the 27 kids that would be on 3 squads get some kind of offers, and only 6 players out of 27 kids don't get an opportunity to play ball for free in college. It's just a big difference, and it has nothing to do with, you know, who's playing where. It's all about your team roster construction. And I think that's the thing that's so valuable to understand. This one little concept can get 21 out of 27 kids college offers on average, and only 6 kids don't get to go in and play ball in college. The traditional method cannot even come close to this strategy. So the big question is this: with such dramatically better results in this approach, why don't more clubs do it this way, right? Why doesn't everybody say, look, we're just going to put our best kids together and our next best kids together and the next best kids together and play everybody in the right lane, not have skill gap problems? Why don't people do it? Well, there's some big issues, right? I mean, some of the ones we've seen the most, you know, prideful parent. My kid's better than that. They deserve to be on the top team. They're the best kid in the gym, blah, 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 blah. We've all heard that, right? Prideful coaches. You know, I don't think another coach can coach these kids as good as I can. I am one of the best coaches in the country, and if that kid isn't playing for me, they're just not going to shine. They're not going to be their very best. They can't play under their system. Like, there's prideful coaches that sometimes don't want to let great kids move on to where they need to be. There's a lack of trust. mean, somebody has to organize this process and monitor it on an ongoing basis and have heart-to-heart conversations with not just kids, but their parents and their coaches so you can keep kids at the right level all the time. Somebody has to lead that effort, and if the people around them don't trust that leader, it can't happen. Feelings get hurt. Man, kids are emotionally impacted by, wear this blue jersey versus this purple jersey versus this red jersey. I get it. It's tough stuff, man, these kids and their emotions. But at the end of the day, what's more important? Getting to play ball in college or having fun or feeling like you're a part of this group, a little Susie and little, Cameron. You gotta be real with your kids. In the end, you're not doing them any favors by letting them think that they're great because they're playing on a great team. You need to get them playing where they can play. They can produce the outcomes. And then the last piece is lack of vision. So many people think that they got 4, 5, 6 little kids and they're going to put a little bubble around them, and that group of little kids is just going to keep getting better and better and go all the way to the finish line. And I believe that. I believe that for 6 years. I took a group of kids together for 6 years on a journey, and we won all kinds of games. But at the end of the day, our best kids got tons of offers. Our weaker kids got 0 offers. We had a great time doing it. But here we stand with kids that didn't get to go to college for free. And it's all because we didn't have the vision to realize you got to get everybody playing lots of minutes in every game if they're going to play ball in college. Otherwise, they don't get seen enough to get picked up. So anyway, that's sort of our presentation on team construction. Hopefully you found this idea interesting. I'm not sure if you can do it in your club or for your program, but this is how we work it with Carolina Elite FBC. We've seen a lot of great results from it, and we hope that you have a great opportunity in this. And really the goal is to try to just get from good to great. And it just takes teamwork. It takes courage and new ideas. It takes vision. You got to trust each other and trust the process, and you will get there.